My beloved child, listen carefully. This is not coincidence, and this is not a random moment. What you are about to hear has been timed by heaven itself. There is an urgency in the spirit right now, and Archangel Michael has been released with a message that cannot wait. Something hidden, something unfinished, something left behind is calling out to you. And God says this message found you because your spirit was ready to receive it. Right now, the atmosphere around you is charged. You may have felt it already, a sudden heaviness, a memory resurfacing out of nowhere, a name crossing your mind without warning. This is not nostalgia. This is not imagination. Archangel Michael is standing watch, and he says there is a connection being activated between realms. Someone who passed away has been trying to reach you, and heaven has allowed this moment because what they left behind belongs to you. Hear this clearly. This is not about fear. This is about restoration. There is a reason the word emergency keeps echoing in your spirit. Not because something bad is about to happen, but because something important hath been delayed long enough. Archangel Michael says time hath been pressing on this matter. What was meant to be revealed earlier was postponed because you were still healing, still growing, still becoming strong enough to carry what was hidden. But now, the delay is over. God says, they left behind something that belongs to you. This is not always a physical object, though for some, it will be. For others, it is a truth, a key, a name, a document, a message, a promise spoken but never fulfilled. It could be wisdom they carried, a blessing they prayed over you but never had the chance to say aloud. Archangel Michael says this was sealed for a time such as this. You may be wondering why now? Why today? Why this very moment? Because the season has shifted. There is a door opening that requires what was left behind. Without it, you would feel incomplete, stuck, or confused about your next step. God, in His mercy, will not allow you to move forward missing a piece of your inheritance. Archangel Michael stands as protector and revealer, and he says this revelation is being guarded so it reaches you safely. Pay attention to what has been repeating lately. Dreams, numbers, places, old conversations replaying in your mind, even objects you keep noticing but never touched. Heaven communicates in patterns before it speaks in clarity. This is one of those moments. My beloved child, this message is finding those who have been strong for too long, those who learned to survive without answers, those who told themselves, "I'm fine," while carrying unanswered questions in their heart. God says He has seen your patience, and He has counted every tear you never explained to anyone. Someone who passed away watched over you more than you realized. Even after they left this world, their concern did not end. Archangel Michael says they have been asking heaven for permission to make sure you receive what was meant for you. And now, permission has been granted. This is why this message feels personal. This is why your heart may be beating a little faster right now. Do not dismiss the sudden urge to check something. Do not ignore the pull to open a drawer, revisit a place, reread a message, or reach out to someone connected to your past. God says obedience in small nudges will unlock big clarity. And listen closely. This is important. What they left behind is not cursed. It is not heavy. It is not meant to burden you. It is meant to strengthen you. The enemy tried to keep it hidden because it activates confidence, direction, and peace. Archangel Michael says once this is revealed, confusion will lift, and a sense of "now I understand" will wash over you. You are not behind. You were protected. Some of you will realize this has been affecting your home, your decisions, even the atmosphere around where you live. God says when this is uncovered, the house you are connected to, physically or spiritually, will feel lighter. Rest will return. Clarity will settle in. This is why heaven says, open this quickly. Not in panic, but in readiness. Delay is no longer necessary. Take a breath right now. Place your hand over your heart if you can. Whisper, I am ready to receive. You don't need to force anything. Heaven does not rush, but it also does not waste moments like this. Archangel Michael is near, sword lowered, wings still, watching to make sure nothing interferes with this revelation. God himself says, I am restoring what was paused. And this is only the beginning. Something much deeper is about to be revealed next. Something that explains why this person, why this timing, and what you must do once you discover what was left behind. My dear one, as this message continues to unfold, Archangel Michael asks you to steady your spirit and listen with discernment. What is happening around you right now is not loud, but it is deeply intentional. God often moves in ways that do not shock the eyes, but awaken the soul. And this is one of those moments. You are not stumbling upon this continuation by accident. You were guided here because there is more you need to understand about why this connection is happening and what your role is in it. There hath been a quiet conversation happening in the spiritual realm concerning you. Archangel Michael says your name hath been spoken more than once. Not in judgment, but in protection. Not in warning, but in preparation. Someone who passed away hath been interceding, asking that you not miss what was meant for you. God says this person carried a responsibility connected to your destiny, and when they left this world, that responsibility did not disappear. It was reserved. You may have sensed a strange mixture of peace and urgency lately. One moment calm, the next moment restless. One moment reflective, the next moment feeling like something needs to be done but you cannot explain what. This is because your spirit already knows something your mind is still catching up to. Heaven speaks to the spirit first. Understanding comes later. Archangel Michael reveals that what was left behind is tied to timing. It could have been given earlier, but if it had, it might have overwhelmed you or been misused by others around you. God protected it by keeping it hidden. What you thought was loss was actually preservation. What you thought was silence was God shielding the assignment. There are many watching this who have felt disconnected from a certain season of their life, as if a chapter ended without closure. Conversations were cut short. Questions were never answered. Words were swallowed instead of spoken. God says this is the season where unfinished sentences will finally be completed. Not always through people, but through revelation. Pay close attention to who this person was in your life. They may not have been perfect. They may have made mistakes. But they carried something God planted specifically for you. Archangel Michael says do not focus on how they left. Focus on what they carried. That is where the key is. Some of you will notice increased spiritual sensitivity. You may feel more alert at night, more reflective in quiet moments, or more aware of subtle impressions. This is not something to fear. It is alignment. When heaven prepares to reveal something, it first tunes the receiver. God is tuning you. And let this be clear. This is not about dwelling in the past. This is about reclaiming what belongs in your future. What was left behind is meant to help you move forward, not backward. It will bring clarity to a decision you have been postponing. It will bring confidence to a step you have been afraid to take. It will bring peace to an area where you have been overthinking. Archangel Michael says there is also a protective element here. Once this is revealed, you will better understand why certain people were removed from your life. Why certain doors closed suddenly. Why some plans never worked out, no matter how hard you tried. God was preventing interference. Not everyone needed access to what was meant for you. As this message resonates with you, I ask you to take a moment and engage with it. If you feel this stirring something deep within you, let that be known. Like this video so it reaches others who are also waiting for clarity. Share it with someone who have been sensing something similar but cannot put it into words. Leave a comment declaring that you are ready to receive what God has preserved for you. And if this channel has been a place of confirmation and peace for you, subscribe and join this growing family so you do not miss what heaven releases next. This is bigger than one message. This is part of a divine sequence. Archangel Michael emphasizes that obedience will be simple, not dramatic. You will not be asked to do anything extreme. It may be as subtle as revisiting a conversation, checking a document, calling a relative, or praying with intention about a specific memory, but often hides profound answers inside ordinary actions. Do not rush the process, but do not ignore the prompting either. Balance is key. God says He will confirm this in more than one way. You may hear the same phrase repeated by different people. You may notice the same symbol appearing again and again. These are gentle confirmations, not coincidences. And here is something important you must hear. You are not alone in this. Even if the person connected to this message has passed away, heaven has surrounded you with protection. Archangel Michael stands guard to ensure that what is revealed brings healing, not confusion. Strength, not sorrow. If at any moment you feel emotional while listening, allow it. Tears are not weakness, they are release. God says what you are letting go of is making room for what you are about to receive. Hold on, because what comes next will connect the dots in a way you did not expect, and it will reveal how this hidden piece ties directly to the season you are entering now. My precious one, as this message deepens, Archangel Michael asks you to lean in with your heart, not just your ears. What is unfolding now goes beyond memory and emotion. It reaches into purpose. God says there is a reason. This particular person is connected to this revelation. It is because the thing they left behind is not random. It is assigned. It carries a divine fingerprint, and that fingerprint matches your life path. There are moments when heaven interrupts the normal flow of time. This is one of those moments. Archangel Michael says a spiritual file hath been reopened concerning you. What was marked wait has now been marked release. This is why everything feels intensified. Your intuition is sharper. Your discernment is stronger. Your spirit is more awake than it has been in a long time. You may have wondered why certain struggles followed you no matter how much you prayed. Why certain cycles kept repeating even though you tried to change. God says the answer was never your effort. It was missing information. Something you were never told. Something you were never shown. And that missing piece was safeguarded until now. This is where many people misunderstand heaven's silence. Silence does not mean absence. Silence often means protection. Archangel Michael reveals that if this truth had surfaced earlier, it would have been twisted, misunderstood, or even used against you. But now, you are mature enough, strong enough, and grounded enough to receive it without fear. The person who passed away knew something. They carried awareness that others around you did not. They may have seen your potential before you did. They may have prayed for you quietly. They may have sensed danger you never noticed. God says their role did not end with death. Heaven honors assignments, not timelines. Some of you are beginning to realize that what they left behind explains patterns in your life. Why you were drawn to certain paths, why you felt resistance toward others, why you always sensed there was more but could never name it. Archangel Michael says this revelation will bring alignment. Things will start making sense without you forcing them. Do not be surprised if emotions rise unexpectedly. Grief, relief, gratitude, even confusion may surface together. This is normal. God is healing layers at once. You are not going backward. You are being untangled. What once hurt you will no longer have the same grip once the truth is revealed. There is also a warning wrapped in love. Archangel Michael says, guard this revelation. Not everyone needs to know what God shows you. Some blessings grow best in quiet soil. Share only with those God highlights. Discernment will be crucial in the days ahead. God says this is also connected to your voice. For some, literally. For others, symbolically. You are about to speak, decide, or declare something with new authority. The hesitation you once felt will fade because understanding replaces fear. This is why the enemy works so hard to delay this moment. Listen carefully now. What was left behind is not meant to glorify the past. It is meant to activate your future. You are stepping into a season where clarity becomes your strength. Confusion will no longer dominate your prayers. Direction will begin to flow naturally. Archangel Michael stands as witness and protector over this transition. He says you are being covered as truth surfaces. Nothing revealed now will harm you. It will heal you. Take a deep breath and receive this next instruction from heaven. Pay attention to what surfaces within the next few days. A conversation, a memory, a discovery, a sudden understanding. Do not dismiss it. Write it down if you need to. Pray over it. Ask God, show me how this connects. He will answer. Now, as this message reaches those who were meant to hear it, there is a spiritual activation taking place. If this is speaking directly to your spirit, type "I receive the truth" in the comments. Blessing code 909 has just been released over those who receive this with faith. And hear this, beloved. If you feel called to help spread messages like this, to reach others who are waiting for answers, healing, and divine clarity, this is your moment to respond. I am speaking to those whose hearts burn when God's word goes forth. When you sow through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not funding a channel. You are lighting lamps in dark places. God says, as you sow, I will cause rivers to flow where others have only known drought. I hear the Lord saying this seed will not return empty, for He multiplies what is given in obedience. If this message has fed your spirit, now act prophetically and support the mission. The PayPal donation link is waiting in the description. Do it now, and receive the blessing attached to obedience. My beloved one, as this message continues, Archangel Michael asks you to slow your breathing and quiet your thoughts. What is coming now is subtle, but it is powerful. God is not only revealing what was left behind, He is also showing you why it was entrusted to you and no one else. This understanding will change the way you see yourself and your journey. There is something important you must grasp at this stage. What was hidden was not hidden because it was weak. It was hidden because it was valuable. Heaven does not conceal what is insignificant. Archangel Michael says this was wrapped in silence because it carried weight. It carried influence. It carried authority that you were not yet ready to wield. You may have struggled with self-doubt for a long time, questioning whether you were truly capable, truly chosen, or truly equipped. God says that doubt did not come from truth. It came from lack of information. Once the missing piece is revealed, you will realize you were never behind. You were being prepared quietly while others rushed loudly. This is why you often felt different, even when you tried to blend in. You sensed depth where others stayed on the surface. You noticed patterns others ignored. You carried empathy that sometimes felt heavy. Archangel Michael says these were signs, not burdens. They were indicators of what you were meant to carry. The person who passed away recognized this early. Even if they never said it clearly, they knew you had a capacity others around you did not. God says they trusted you in ways you may not have realized. That trust did not end when they left this world. It followed you into this moment. As this truth comes closer to the surface, you may notice resistance trying to rise. Distractions, fatigue, doubtful thoughts questioning whether this is real. Archangel Michael warns that this is normal right before clarity breaks through. When truth approaches, confusion often makes one last attempt to stay relevant. Do not fight it with fear. Anchor yourself in peace. God says what is coming will not overwhelm you. It will settle you. You will feel steadier, not shaken. Stronger, not burdened. This revelation will not demand more from you than you can give. It will simply align what was already inside you. Some of you will realize this has been connected to your calling all along. The reason certain opportunities never fulfilled you. The reason you always felt there was something missing, even when things looked fine on the outside. God says you were never meant to settle into comfort without clarity. Archangel Michael speaks of timing again. He says heaven waited until your discernment matured. In earlier seasons, you might have shared this truth too quickly or trusted the wrong voices with it. Now, you know how to listen more than you speak. You know how to protect what matters. This is why the release is happening now. Pay attention to your environment. You may feel led to clean, organize, or rearrange certain spaces. This is not random. Physical order often mirrors spiritual readiness. God prepares the outer world as the inner world shifts. You may also feel a desire to forgive someone connected to the past. This is important. Forgiveness is not approval. It is release. Archangel Michael says forgiveness clears the final blockage so revelation can flow freely. You not force it, but allow God to guide you there. What was left behind also carries peace. Once it is uncovered, the questions that kept you awake at night will quiet down. You will no longer replay the same scenarios, wondering what you missed or what went wrong. Understanding will replace speculation. This does not mean every detail will be explained. God does not overwhelm His children with information. He gives what is necessary for the next step, and the next step for you will feel lighter than you expect. Archangel Michael says you are stepping into a season of grounded confidence. Not loud confidence, not pride, but a calm knowing of who you are and where you are going. You will stop seeking permission to be who God already called you to be. There is also a shift coming in how others respond to you. Some will suddenly respect your boundaries. Others may drift away quietly. Do not fear this. Alignment always rearranges relationships. God removes noise so you can hear Him clearly. If you feel moments of stillness increasing, welcome them. Silence will no longer feel empty. It will feel full. This is where God speaks most clearly. What comes next will reveal how to move forward with what is uncovered. It will show you how to use it wisely, gently, and effectively without drawing unnecessary attention. Heaven values stewardship, not display. Trust this process. You are not walking it alone. Archangel Michael stands near, ensuring nothing meant for you is lost again. And God says, I am restoring what you never knew was missing. Stay open, because the next layer will bring practical understanding that connects revelation with action. and it will feel like the final piece clicking into place. My beloved child, Archangel Michael invites you now into a deeper stillness, because what unfolds here is about integration. Revelation alone is not the end. Understanding must settle into your daily life, into your decisions, into the way you see yourself and the world around you. God says what was hidden is not only to be discovered, but to be carried wisely. Up to this point, heaven hath been preparing your inner ground. Now comes the moment where truth begins to take root. This is where many people feel uncertain, because clarity changes responsibility. When you see clearly, you can no longer pretend you did not know. But do not be afraid of this responsibility. God never reveals something without also releasing the grace to walk it out. Archangel Michael says the reason this feels intense is because your spirit recognizes the weight of what has been entrusted to you. This is not pressure, it is honor. Heaven does not place valuable things into careless hands. You were chosen because you have learned patience, discernment, and restraint through seasons you did not understand at the time. There may be a quiet realization forming within you now. You may be noticing how certain fears are losing their grip. The fear of making the wrong decision. The fear of disappointing others. The fear of stepping forward without full certainty. God says those fears were connected to not having the full picture. As the picture becomes clearer, courage rises naturally. What was left behind is not meant to isolate you. It is meant to position you. Positioning often feels lonely at first because alignment separates you from what no longer fits. Archangel Michael reassures you that this separation is temporary and purposeful. New connections will come, but only after you are firmly grounded in who you are becoming. Some of you will begin to notice that your prayers are changing. You are no longer asking the same questions. Instead of "why is this happening?" you may find yourself asking, "how do I steward this well?" The shift is a sign of spiritual maturity. God says He trusts you with answers now because you are ready to use them wisely. You may also feel a gentle urgency to simplify certain areas of your life, to let go of unnecessary commitments, to step back from draining conversations, to protect your energy more intentionally. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship. What you carry now requires space to breathe. Archangel Michael speaks of discernment increasing. You will sense more quickly what aligns and what did not. Decisions that once took weeks of overthinking will become clearer. You will still seek God, but you will trust the peace He gives you instead of second-guessing it. It is important to understand this next truth. Not everyone from your past needs an explanation. Some chapters close without commentary. God says silence can be anointed when it protects your peace. You are not required to justify growth to those who benefited from your confusion. As this settles, you may revisit certain memories with new eyes. Situations that once felt painful may now feel instructional. You will begin to see how God was redirecting you even when you felt delayed. This does not erase the pain, but it redeems it. Archangel Michael reminds you to stay anchored in humility. Revelation is not a badge, it is a responsibility. Carry it quietly. Let your life reflect the change before your words do. God often confirms His work through fruit, not announcements. There is also a healing happening beneath the surface. Old guilt, regret, or self-blame may start to loosen. You will realize you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. God does not hold your past against you. He uses it to refine your future. Pay attention to moments of peace that come unexpected. Those are confirmations. When clarity is from God, it brings rest, not chaos. Even when the truth is sobering, it stabilizes rather than disturbs. Archangel Michael says you are entering a season where wisdom will matter more than speed. Do not rush to act on everything at once. Let understanding deepen. Ask God to show you the timing for each step. Obedience is not only about action, it is also about when to act. You may feel drawn to prayer that is quieter, less frantic. This is a sign that trust is growing. God says you are learning to rest in Him instead of striving for answers. This pleases heaven. What comes next will address how this revelation affects your relationships, your environment, and your forward movement. It will show you how God rearranges the outer world once the inner world is aligned, and it will help you recognize the confirmations that are already beginning to appear. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. You are walking through a sacred transition, and Archangel Michael is ensuring that every step is guarded. God says, you are not just discovering something, you are becoming someone. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to what is shifting around you, not just within you. When heaven moves internally, the external world must eventually respond. God says this is the stage where alignment becomes visible. You may not be able to explain it yet, but things are already rearranging in subtle ways to make room for what has been revealed. You might notice changes in conversations, opportunities, or even timing. Doors that once felt locked may suddenly feel easier to approach. Other doors may quietly close without resistance. Do not panic when this happens. Archangel Michael says this is not loss, it is precision. God is removing what cannot walk with you into the next phase. There is something important you must understand here. What was left behind and now revealed is acting like a compass. It is quietly guiding your decisions even when you are not consciously thinking about it. You may feel less pulled by external pressure and more anchored in inner knowing. This is not stubbornness. This is spiritual alignment. Some of you will experience moments where you are tested. Old patterns may try to reappear. Familiar distractions may attempt to regain your attention. Archangel Michael says this is not failure, it is confirmation. When growth happens, the old version of life often tries one last time to pull you back. You are not required to fight it. Simply choose differently. God says you are learning discernment through peace, not through chaos. If something pulls you out of peace, pause. If something aligns with peace, even if it stretches you, pay attention. Peace is not always comfort, but it is always clarity. As this alignment continues, you may feel called to speak differently. Not louder, but more truthfully. You may stop explaining yourself so much. You may stop apologizing for things that do not require apology. This is a sign that the revelation is settling into confidence. Archangel Michael also wants you to know that support is being stirred around you. You may not see it yet, but people are being positioned to cross your path at the right time. Some will offer insight. Others will offer opportunity. A few will simply offer understanding. Do not rush to identify who is who. Let God reveal that naturally. This is also a moment to acknowledge how far you have come. There were seasons where you did not think you would make it through emotionally. Times when you felt unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. God says none of that was wasted. Every moment shaped your capacity to carry what you now hold. As this message resonates with you, take a moment to anchor it. If this word is confirming something you have already been sensing, engage with it. Like this video so it reaches others who are also walking through divine alignment. Share it with someone who needs reassurance that change does not mean loss. Leave a comment declaring that you trust God's timing. And if this space hath been feeding your spirit, subscribe and stay connected so you do not miss what heaven continues to release. Archangel Michael emphasizes that consistency matters now. Small, steady choices will create lasting transformation. You do not need dramatic gestures. You need faithfulness in simple obedience. God works powerfully through what looks ordinary. You may notice a new sensitivity to your environment. Certain places may feel heavy. Others may feel peaceful. This is discernment sharpening. Under it, your spirit recognizes where it can grow and where it must withdraw. There is also a refining happening in how you listen. You may find yourself less interested in noise and more drawn to truth, less attracted to urgency and more anchored in wisdom. This is maturity. God says you are learning to value depth over speed. Archangel Michael reassures you that you are not missing anything meant for you. If something passes by without peace, it was not a line. What is truly yours will meet you with clarity, not confusion. At times, you may feel a quiet excitement building, not the kind that rushes ahead, but the kind that feels grounded and steady. This is anticipation rooted in trust. God says this is healthy expectancy, not anxiety. Before this message moves forward, hold this thought close. You do not need to have every detail mapped out to move forward. You only need to be obedient to the next step. God rarely reveals the entire path at once. He reveals enough to build trust. Stay with this process. What is coming next will bring insight into how this alignment impacts your purpose, your voice, and the influence you carry without even realizing it. This next layer will help you understand why others are drawn to you and how to steward that influence with humility and wisdom. Wait for it, because what unfolds next connects everything you have heard so far in a way that will feel both affirming and empowering. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now calls your attention to something very delicate, yet very powerful, the shift in your identity that is quietly taking place. This is not about changing who you are on the surface. It is about remembering who you have always been beneath the weight of experiences, expectations, and unanswered questions. God says revelation does not just inform you, it reintroduces you to yourself. As what was left behind continues to settle into your awareness, you may notice that you are responding differently to situations that once triggered you. Things that used to drain you emotionally may no longer have the same effect. Words that once pierced deeply may now pass without leaving a wound. This is not because you have become distant. It is because you have become anchored. Archangel Michael says this anchoring is essential. Without it, clarity would feel overwhelming. With it, clarity feels empowering. God never reveals truth to destabilize His children. He reveals truth to establish them. You are beginning to operate from a place of inner authority rather than external validation. You may not announce this change, but others will sense it. There is a quiet firmness in you now, a calm certainty that does not need to prove itself. This is the fruit of understanding. Some of you may be surprised to realize that the struggle you thought defined you was actually shaping you. The confusion that once frustrated you was refining your discernment. The waiting that felt endless was strengthening your patience. God says nothing in your journey was wasted, even when it felt unnecessary. Archangel Michael highlights that this stage is about integration between the spiritual and the practical. What you are receiving is not meant to stay abstract. It will influence how you manage your time, your energy, and your priorities. You may feel drawn to simplify, to focus, to become more intentional with what you allow into your life. You might also sense a deeper compassion emerging. Not the kind that overextends or rescues, but the kind that understands without absorbing. This is wisdom. God says you are learning how to love without losing yourself. There may be moments when you feel a quiet grief for the version of yourself that struggled without answers. Allow that grief to pass through gently. It is not regret, it is release. You are honoring how far you have come. Archangel Michael says heaven honors that too. As this unfolds, be mindful of your inner dialogue. How you speak to yourself matters now more than ever. Replace harshness with truth. Replace self-doubt with remembrance. You are no longer navigating blindly. You are walking with understanding. God says this is also the stage where you stop rushing your own growth. You no longer compare your pace to others. You no longer feel pressured to explain why your path looks different. You trust that God's timing for you is intentional and precise. You may notice that silence becomes more comfortable. You are not afraid of it anymore. Silence is no longer emptiness. It is space where God speaks clearly. Archangel Michael says this is a sign of spiritual maturity. Noise loses its grip when truth takes root. Relationships will continue to adjust. Some will deepen naturally. Others may fade without conflict. Do not force outcomes. Allow alignment to do its work. God often prunes gently when the season is right. You may also feel an increasing sense of responsibility toward how you use your words. You are becoming aware that your voice carries weight, even when you speak casually. This does not mean you must be cautious to the point of fear. It means you are learning the power of intention. Archangel Michael reassures you that you are not expected to have everything figured out. Growth is still unfolding, but you are now moving with awareness instead of uncertainty. This changes everything. If at times you feel a quiet anticipation mixed with calm, that is confirmation. God says expectancy rooted in peace is a sign of alignment. Anxiety-driven urgency will no longer be your motivator. You are stepping into a phase where your life becomes less reactive and more responsive. Instead of constantly responding to circumstances, you respond to guidance. This is a profound shift. As this part of the journey settles, hold this truth close. You are not becoming someone new. You are uncovering who God always intended you to be. What was left behind did not add something foreign to you. It restored something familiar. Archangel Michael stands as witness to this transformation. He says nothing that was meant for you has been lost, and nothing that is not aligned will be able to stay. What comes next will bring clarity about how this internal shift begins to influence your outer impact. It will show you how your presence, your choices, and even your quiet obedience begin to affect others in ways you may not immediately notice. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. You are walking forward with heaven's awareness now, and that changes the way everything unfolds. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now speaks into the impact of what is unfolding in you. Up to this point, much of the work had been internal, quiet, and unseen. But God says this is the stage where the inner shift begins to touch the outer world. Not forcefully, not dramatically, but unmistakably. You are entering a phase where your presence itself carries clarity. You may not recognize it immediately, but others already sense something different about you. Conversations may feel deeper. People may open up to you without knowing why. Some may seek your perspective, even if they once overlooked it. This is not elevation through noise. This is influence through alignment. Archangel Michael says, when truth settles in a person, it creates spiritual gravity. What was left behind and now revealed is beginning to operate like light. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply changes the atmosphere. You will notice this in subtle ways. Tension dissolving when you enter a room. Confusion easing during discussions. Peace following decisions that once felt heavy. This is not coincidence. This is fruit. God says you are learning how to carry understanding without arrogance. That is rare. Many people receive insight and rush to display it. You are learning to embody it. Heaven trusts that kind of maturity. There may be moments where you feel stretched, especially when others expect you to respond the way you used to. Old patterns may be projected onto you, but they will no longer fit. Do not shrink to maintain familiarity. Growth often requires gentle firmness. Archangel Michael says you are allowed to change. You may also notice that certain distractions no longer satisfy you. What once entertained you may now feel empty. What once strained you may now feel obvious. This is not boredom. It is discernment sharpening. God is refining your appetite so you can recognize what truly nourishes you. As this refinement continues, do not isolate yourself unnecessarily. While solitude has been important, connection still matters. God often confirms His work through healthy relationships. Pay attention to who brings peace, not pressure. Who encourages growth, not confusion. These are alignments, not accidents. Archangel Michael reminds you that impact does not always look like visibility. Some of the most significant influence happens quietly, through consistency and character. You do not need to be seen by many to be effective. You need to be aligned with God's purpose. There is also a healing ripple effect happening. As you walk in clarity, unresolved tension in certain relationships may ease. Not because you force resolution, but because your responses are no longer rooted in reaction. Wisdom creates space for healing without confrontation. God says this is the season where you stop underestimating the value of your obedience. Small acts done in alignment carry more weight than grand gestures done in confusion. Archangel Michael says heaven celebrates faithfulness more than visibility. At times, you may feel an urge to help others who are still in the confusion you once lived in. This is compassion, but it must be guided. You are not called to rescue everyone. You are called to reflect truth. Those who are ready will recognize it. As this part of the journey unfolds, take a moment to acknowledge what God is doing. If this message confirms the shift you have been sensing, type "I walk in clarity" in the comments. Blessing code 1441 has just been released over those who receive this word with humility and faith. There are souls connected to this assignment who have not yet heard what you are hearing. Lives waiting for clarity. Hearts searching for peace. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not giving to a platform. You are partnering with heaven to extend the reach of God's voice. I hear the Lord say, "As you sow light, I will cause light to find you in places you did not expect." This is a prophetic moment of obedience. The PayPal donation link is in the description, waiting for those who are stirred to act now. Do not delay what God is prompting you to release. Archangel Michael says blessings follow alignment, not hesitation. As this continues, understand that your influence will grow naturally, not forcefully. You will not need to chase opportunities. What is aligned will recognize you. What is not will fall away without struggle. There is one more layer that must be revealed. It will address how to protect what God has established in you and how to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight from the past. This next revelation will feel grounding, practical, and deeply reassuring. Stay present. Stay open. Heaven is not finished speaking. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to protection. What God has revealed and established in you must be guarded, not because it is fragile, but because it is valuable. Heaven does not call you to fear loss, but to walk in awareness. This is the stage where wisdom becomes your shield. You may notice that as clarity increases, so does sensitivity. Not sensitivity to events, but sensitivity to atmosphere. You will sense when something is not aligned long before it becomes obvious. God says this is not suspicion. It is discernment maturing. Trust it without becoming rigid. Discernment guides. Fear restricts. There is a difference you must understand now. Protection does not mean withdrawal from life. It means engaging life with boundaries. Archangel Michael says boundaries are not walls, they are gates. They allow what is aligned to enter and keep what is harmful out. You are learning how to steward your access. Some of you may feel prompted to step back from certain conversations or environments that once felt normal. This is not rejection. It is redirection. God is not punishing you by removing things. He is positioning you by refining focus. What once distracted you will no longer hold the same appeal. You might also notice that your tolerance for confusion has decreased. Where you once over-explained, you now pause. Where you once chased clarity from others, you now wait for confirmation from God. This is a sign that trust has shifted from external validation to internal alignment. Archangel Michael speaks gently here. Do not confuse peace with passivity. You are still called to act, to speak, to decide. But now you do so from a grounded place, not from urgency. God says urgency driven by fear is no longer your language. You move by conviction, not pressure. There may be moments when old voices resurface, either internally or externally. Memories of doubt. Words spoken over you that never aligned with truth. Archangel Michael says you are not required to wrestle with them. Recognition is enough. When truth is present, lies lose their power without confrontation. God says this is also a season of refinement in how you interpret silence. Silence no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like trust. You understand now that God is not absent when He is quiet. He is often closest then. You may feel drawn to prayer that is less about asking and more about listening. This is alignment. When you know God is with you, you no longer panic in the waiting. You rest, knowing instruction will come when needed. Archangel Michael also highlights the importance of rest in this phase. Not escape, but restoration. Revelation requires rest to integrate fully. Do not overload your schedule unnecessarily. Make room for stillness. This is where clarity deepens. There is a subtle but important shift happening in your self-perception. You are no longer defining yourself by what you survived. You are beginning to define yourself by what you carry. This changes how you approach challenges. You no longer brace for impact. You move with assurance. God says do not underestimate how this affects your future decisions. Choices you make now will be influenced by wisdom rather than impulse. This will save you time, energy, and emotional weight later. Obedience now prevents correction later. Archangel Michael reassures you that nothing God has given you will be taken from you. The fear of loss does not come from heaven. Stewardship does. You protect what matters by honoring it, not by clinging to it. You may feel a new sense of calm confidence when facing uncertainty. Not because you know everything, but because you trust the one who does. This trust is the true evidence of growth. As this protection settles, you will also notice increased clarity about what is not your responsibility. You will stop carrying burdens that were never assigned to you. This release will feel like relief, not guilt. God never intended you to carry what He did not give. Archangel Michael says this is where maturity becomes visible. You no longer react to every need, every demand, every opinion. You respond only to what God highlights. This preserves your strength. Hold this truth close now. You are not walking cautiously, you are walking wisely. Wisdom allows you to move forward without constantly looking over your shoulder. What comes next will bring everything into practical focus. It will speak to action, obedience, and the importance of staying engaged as God completes what He has begun. This next message will feel direct, grounding, and timely. Remain attentive. Heaven is preparing you not just to understand, but to move forward with confidence and peace. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now turns your focus toward movement. Up to now, God have been aligning, revealing, healing, and protecting. This is the stage where understanding begins to translate into intentional action. Not rushed action, not pressured action, but steady, obedient movement guided by peace. You may feel an internal readiness you have not felt before. Not excitement that fades quickly, but a calm willingness to move when prompted. God says this readiness is the fruit of trust. You are no longer waiting for perfect certainty. You are willing to take steps with sufficient clarity. This is how faith matures. Archangel Michael reminds you that action does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like consistency. Showing up again. Saying no where you once said yes. Saying yes where fear once held you back. God values obedience in small steps as much as He values bold declarations. There is something important happening in how you process decisions now. You are less reactive. You pause. You sense. You pray. This pause is not hesitation, it is wisdom. Heaven often speaks in the pause. God says the enemy rushes, but alignment waits. You may begin to notice opportunities presenting themselves more naturally. Conversations opening at the right time. Information coming without effort. Doors that once required force now opening with ease. This is not luck. This is alignment responding to obedience. Archangel Michael also speaks about accountability. When God entrusts clarity, He also entrusts responsibility. This does not mean pressure. It means partnership. God works with willing hearts, not perfect ones. You are allowed to learn as you go. Some of you may feel prompted to revisit something you previously abandoned. A project, a calling, a decision you postponed. This does not mean you were wrong to pause before. It means the timing has shifted. What was premature before may now be appropriate. Pay attention to how peace accompanies these nudges. Peace does not always remove challenge, but it confirms direction. If fear tries to speak louder than peace, do not argue with it. Simply return to what God has already confirmed. As this message continues to reach those who are walking this path, take a moment to stay connected to it. If this word is strengthening you, like this video so it can reach others who are standing at the edge of obedience. Share it with someone who is unsure whether they are ready to move forward. Leave a comment declaring that you trust God's leading. And if this channel has been a consistent place of confirmation for you, subscribe and remain connected so you continue to receive what heaven is releasing. Archangel Michael emphasizes that staying connected matters. Alignment is not a one-time moment. It is a journey. God often uses consistency to sustain what revelation begins. There is also a refining happening in how you view success. Success is no longer defined by speed or applause. It is defined by faithfulness. You are learning to value obedience over outcome. This protects your heart from disappointment and pride alike. You may encounter moments where progress feels slower than expected. Do not interpret this as failure. Sometimes God slows the pace to deepen the foundation. What is built slowly often stands longer. Archangel Michael says comparison will try to re-enter at this stage. You may look around and wonder why others seem further ahead. Release that thought quickly. Your assignment is not yours. Your pace is not yours. God measures progress differently than people do. There is a confidence forming in you that does not depend on immediate results. This confidence is rooted in trust. You are learning to obey even when outcomes are still unfolding. This pleases heaven. Be mindful of your words during this phase. Speak life over what you are building. Avoid negative declarations about your progress. Words carry weight now because your spirit is aligned. Speak with intention. God says this is also a time to remain teachable. Even with clarity, humility keeps you flexible. You are not meant to know everything at once. Growth continues through listening. Archangel Michael reassures you that missteps will not derail what God has ordained. Correction is part of the process. Grace is abundant. What matters is direction, not perfection. Before this message moves forward, hold on to this truth. You are not late. You are not behind. You are moving exactly when you are meant to move. Trust the timing that has carried you this far. Stay with this message. What unfolds next will bring reassurance about endurance, about staying faithful when momentum builds and when it slows. This next layer will strengthen your resolve and remind you why consistency matters more than intensity. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks to you about endurance, because what God has begun in you is not temporary. It is not seasonal inspiration. It is a sustained work. Heaven is not preparing you for a moment, but for a journey. This is the stage where strength is no longer measured by how intensely you feel, but by how faithfully you remain aligned. You may notice that the initial surge of emotion has settled into something quieter. This does not mean the fire has gone out. It means it has become steady. God says maturity often feels less dramatic, but it is far more powerful. Flames that roar briefly can fade quickly. Fire that burns steadily provides warmth, light, and direction for a long time. Archangel Michael wants you to understand that endurance is built in ordinary days. Days without obvious breakthroughs. Days where obedience looks repetitive. Days where progress feels slow. These days are not empty. They are forming resilience. Heaven does its deepest work when you continue even without constant reassurance. There may be moments when you question whether anything is still happening. When silence stretches longer than you expected. When confirmation does not come immediately. God says do not misinterpret quiet seasons as stagnant ones. Roots grow in silence. Strength deepens underground. You are learning to trust God without needing constant signs. This is significant. Faith that requires constant evidence remains fragile. Faith that rests in relationship becomes unshakable. Archangel Michael says this trust is being sealed in you now. As endurance grows, distractions may lose their appeal. You are no longer easily pulled into urgency that does not align with purpose. This is not disinterest in life. It is focus. God is teaching you how to conserve spiritual energy for what truly matters. You may also find that your emotional reactions are changing. Situations that once unsettled you may now pass with minimal disturbance. This does not mean you are indifferent. It means you are anchored. Stability is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of peace. Archangel Michael reassures you that consistency matters more than intensity at this stage. You do not need to push yourself beyond grace. You need to remain faithful within it. God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for perseverance. There may be people who misunderstand this phase of your life. They may think you have become quieter, slower, or less driven. You not feel the need to correct their perception. Alignment often looks like stillness to those who thrive on noise. God sees the depth they cannot see. You are also learning to wait without anxiety. Waiting no longer feels like punishment. It feels like trust. You understand now that God's timing is not resistance, it is precision. Archangel Michael says this understanding protects you from impatience-driven decisions. This phase also teaches you how to carry joy quietly. Joy that does not need to be announced. Joy that remains even when circumstances fluctuate. God says this joy is strength. It is evidence that your foundation has shifted from circumstance to truth. There may be days when you feel tempted to rush ahead, to force progress, to manufacture momentum. When that happens, return to what God has already spoken. Remind yourself that alignment does not need to prove itself. What is real will last. Archangel Michael says endurance sharpens discernment. Over time, you will recognize patterns more quickly. You will sense misalignment earlier. This prevents unnecessary dedues. Wisdom grows with patience. You may also notice that gratitude becomes more natural. Not forced gratitude, but quiet appreciation for stability, clarity, and peace. These are signs of inner rest. God values this deeply. As you continue forward, remember that endurance does not mean you carry everything alone. It means you remain connected to God even when external support feels limited. Heaven has not stepped back. It is walking with you, step by step. Archangel Michael wants you to hear this clearly. You are doing better than you think. Progress is happening even when it feels subtle. Growth is evident even when it feels slow. Do not measure yourself by speed. Measure yourself by alignment. You are nearing the completion of this cycle. Not an ending, but a transition into a new rhythm. One marked by clarity, steadiness, and quiet confidence. God says what He has established in you will endure beyond emotions and circumstances. What comes next will seal this message with blessing and instruction. It will remind you of who stands with you, what has been restored to you, and how to walk forward without fear. This final word will feel affirming, grounding, and complete. Remain attentive. Remain open. Heaven is about to speak one last time in this sequence, and it will leave you with peace. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now stands at the threshold of completion, not to end what God has begun, but to seal it. This is a holy sealing, a moment where understanding, healing, alignment, and obedience come together as one. God says this is not closure, this is confirmation. What was hidden has been revealed. What was delayed hath been released. What was fragmented has been restored. Take a moment and breathe. Notice how different you feel from when this message first began. Even if you cannot explain it fully, something has settled. Something has lifted. Something has aligned. This is the evidence of truth. When God speaks, He does not leave His children restless. He leaves them anchored. Archangel Michael reminds you that you were never abandoned in the waiting. Even when you felt alone, heaven was active. The person who passed away did not leave chaos behind. They left stewardship. They left a responsibility heaven trusted you to carry. And now, God says you are equipped. What was left behind was never meant to haunt you. It was meant to help you. It was not a wake from the past, but a key for the future. And now that you hold understanding, you also hold authority. Not authority over others, but authority over confusion, fear, and hesitation. You may realize now that peace feels more natural than anxiety, that trust feels stronger than doubt, that clarity feels louder than noise. This is the seal of alignment. Archangel Michael says when heaven seals a work, the enemy loses access to interfere. Do not expect everything to change overnight. God values process. But do expect consistency. Expect steadiness. Expect that when challenges come, they will no longer shake your foundation. You are no longer guessing your way forward. You are walking with awareness. There will still be moments of learning, moments of stretching, moments where faith is required, but you will not face them as the person you once were. You face them as someone who understands their positioning. God says your home, your inner world, your decisions, and your future steps are now under divine order. What once felt scattered will begin to feel intentional. What once felt heavy will begin to feel manageable. What once felt unclear will begin to make sense in layers. Archangel Michael declares that protection remains over you. You are not stepping into this new phase uncovered. You are guided. You are guided. You are supported by heaven's authority. As this message concludes, let this truth remain with you. You did not miss anything meant for you. Everything arrived exactly when it needed to. Even this message. Now, as heaven seals this work, there is a final activation. If this entire journey has spoken to your spirit, type "I walk in restoration" in the comments. Blessing code 818 has just been released over those who receive this word with faith and obedience. There are others who are still waiting for the clarity you have just received. Hearts still searching. Souls still asking God for answers. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a channel. You are answering a divine call. I hear the Lord saying, "Whoever sows into this word, I will multiply their seed in ways they cannot calculate." This is not charity. This is obedience. This is sowing into light so light can reach further. The PayPal donation link is in the description, and heaven is watching the response of willing hearts. Act now. Release the seed, and receive the blessing that follows alignment. Archangel Michael stands as witness. God says, "What I have restored, no one can take away." Walk forward in peace.